The January 6th insurrection is something that CNN has been fixated on. It continues to get pretty much daily news coverage from the Democrat media. I think the reasons for this are obvious, right? Anything other than the voters focusing on what is happening right now. This is very straightforward. The Democrat media apparatus can either run footage and stories, some of it apparently false, by the way, we'll get into that in a second, about what happened 18 months ago, or they could talk to you about all the failed policies, failed promises, and utter catastrophe, cataclysm, Clay. We were throwing out some other words.
Yes.
Sharknado
Apocalypse.
of awful. What else do we have? I mean, it was pretty amazing to see what a mess the Biden regime was year one. Year two seems like it's even worse. All that going on, but there's still a fixation on this. I was thinking maybe we would have we'd play some Liz Cheney audio just so you know what's being said. But you know what she's saying. And it's irrelevant. And I don't think she's going to be in Congress much longer. People recognize this, I think, for what it is. And we had earlier in the week, star witness Cassidy Hutchinson, right? There's
Yes.
a problem with Ms. Hutchinson's testimony, and that is, as we discussed at length, it is hearsay. But beyond that, President Trump has come out and issued a very Trumpian statement. He says that Hutchinson was, quote, a whack job aide to Mark Meadows, who has mental problems, and insists he wouldn't lunge at Secret Service agents because, quote, they lift 350 pounds and I don't, which is interesting because I remember when we were talking this, I said, Trump tried, like, there are some things. Look, Trump is a brawler verbally. He throws down. He'll mock people. I mean, we don't live in fantasy land here. We know that. But physically assaulting a member of the Secret Service, one, the logistics of it seemed impossible based on the story, Clay. But then also, Trump is 74. I think he
Here's
was
a good
72
question,
or
Buck.
73
Would
at the
you
time.
take any 75-year-old man in America against any Secret Service agent?
Well, also the Secret Service agents on the presidential detail
That's what I'm saying.
are
Badasses.
particularly
Yes.
ready to roll. It's not something that's going to happen. And look, the whole thing was ridiculous. But now we see, I mean, I'll tell you this, Clay. I've already realized what the out is going to be because they forced this. Why aren't we going to hear from the Secret Service agents? Of course we should hear from the Secret Service agents now, right? They're going to let this fade. And if anyone pushes, they're just going to say, oh, well, there's a special role the Secret Service plays, and we can't have them break confidentiality, which if they make that argument, I just want everyone to be prepared. There's no legal block on that. They could absolutely testify. There's not some Secret Service exemption to being subpoenaed, right? That doesn't exist. And they're telling us that we almost lost our democracy and we should all be going to sleep at night crying because of how scary Trump is. But they're not going to make the Secret Service tell us what actually happened that day because, whoa, that's going too far. These people, these libs, these Democrat frauds in Congress are ridiculous.
Well, and this is why yesterday we took calls, Buck, from attorneys on this, because there are a lot of attorneys working on the January 6th committee. And we had a lot of great callers yesterday pointing out that lawyers can't do this. In a court of law, you would never be allowed to call someone who is testifying to what someone else said, which is hearsay. Moreover, you have an obligation as an attorney to do at least a little bit of effort to attempt to corroborate the allegations that you are making. And they didn't even bother to do that. And it's worth noting that this was a specially scheduled event. And so they made this calculated decision that the salacious nature of the testimony would overwhelm the fact that there is very little evidence to support any of it. In fact, really the only thing she can testify to directly, I believe, Buck, is that Trump threw a plate and it hit the wall when his attorney general said that there wasn't evidence to support the allegations of fraud.
By the way, I that one, I heard that one. I said, Trump might have
I
been
totally
in a really
can
bad
see
mood.
that happening, right? I mean,
inappropriate, a little naughty slap on the wrist. Don't do that, Mr. President. But I could see him doing that.
it doesn't surprise me that anyone who has a temper, which a lot of our presidents have had, that when they get news that they do not like, that they would throw a plate against a wall. Buck, have you ever thrown your phone?
I have not.
Okay. I have thrown my phone, but only into the couch when I knew it wouldn't break, right? So, like, I've gotten sports scores before that I didn't like, or I've been watching a game that I gambled on, and I'm conscious enough, even though I'm disappointed in what I'm seeing happen on the television screen, that I will take my phone, not throw it where it could be severely injured, but I've got it in my hand, and I just throw it into the couch so that it doesn't actually shatter the screen or anything. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't surprise me that anybody who is emotional and reacting to news might throw something, but that's not evidence that you can't be president of the United States, and that's really the only thing that she can directly testify to in a court of law is something that she herself has witnessed.
Yes, and so we're left here to say once again, this is what my liberal associates out there in the world always go crazy when I say this to them, but they'll say, how can you still support Donald Trump? They'll ask me this. They'll say, we're friends.
Yeah.
I've known you, Buck, since you were 10 or something. I have some friends that go way back. How can you still support Donald Trump? And I always turn around and say, if he's so bad, why do you guys have to always lie about him? I just want an answer to, if he's so awful. Which,
well said.
By the way, could we switch to 2019 right now? I mean, who in America doesn't think that pre-pandemic America under Trump wasn't way better?
I would take a lot of mean tweets and plates thrown at the wall over 8.6% interest in $5 a gasoline.
Yeah, and that's actually what when it comes to politicians, you want them to make decisions and operate within the system in a way that makes your life easier, or at least doesn't make it less good, doesn't make it harder.
Doesn't make it worse.
Doesn't make it worse, thank you. And, maybe does a few things to protect your liberty. Like, I'm not asking for the moon here. I'm not asking for that much. But I always point this out because they have to continuously lie about him. And even here's Jim Jordan, who he's always ready to put the lies in a half Nelson.
This is not an unbiased finder of fact. These are 9 people who voted to impeach President Trump, 9 people who are out to get President Trump and don't want him to run. And understand, all we've got from this committee is lie after lie after lie. So we are not going to get the truth, particularly when there's no chance to cross-examine and no chance to see the documents. I mean, think about all the lies we've caught them in, and that's without having any access to the transcripts of the depositions. So many things they're telling us have to be false based on the simple fact we've caught them in 7 lies without seeing any of the evidence.
Buck, to your point, and I've had a lot of my friends ask the same things. How did you vote for Trump? How do you continue to support the idea that Trump could be president?
And you were a double Trumper, right? So you're a double Trumper.
This is well, in 2016 I actually voted Libertarian, which is not a proud moment.
What?
I know. It's not a proud moment, Buck.
We'll talk about this offline. Keep going.
But I'm sorry. I apologize to America.
I am impressed with your honesty, however.
Yeah, I mean, for better or worse, I say exactly what I think, which is why my wife is still amazed that I get to talk on the radio.
I was walking around in
living.
2016 after feeling like I was, a part of the 5% of New York that voted for Donald Trump, smiling ear to ear, and the whole city, Clay. It was like a zombie apocalypse movie. Everybody was so freaked out and depressed. It was funny.
I did not trust Trump or Hillary in 2016. After 4 years of Trump, after really like 2 years, I was like, this guy, I'm all in. And so by 20, I wasn't like I was anti him. I was just like, I don't trust Hillary. I don't trust Trump. I don't know what's going to happen.
So did you go
here.
like, what is Aleppo Gary Johnson? Who was the guy?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I voted for Gary Johnson. Now, I live in Tennessee, so
I
it's
know.
not
It's a
like my
protest
vote
vote.
is. I am now. By the way, if you're out there listening and you're a Libertarian voter and you live in Georgia or you live in Wisconsin or you live in Pennsylvania, I think you're an imbecile because you're throwing your vote away. Then you really are, because your vote matters a great deal. In fact, if you look at the 2020 returns, if the Democrats had the Green Party on the ballot, they would have lost. Republicans lost hundreds of thousands of votes in toss-up states. Libertarians, if you had to choose between voting for Biden or Trump, you would all go with Trump. And so that fires me up. But, Buck, the argument that I would make, and I make to my friends now when they get upset and they ask me this question.
Because you have the same thing, right? I have lib friends who are like, you seem nice and normal. Why are you so crazy with your Trump love? And I'm like, because Trump is so lovable.
There are some people who won't speak to me anymore because I am such a public Trump supporter, and they're furious with me. But what I always say is, and I would encourage all of you listening to me right now to just raise the point. Buck said, if he's so bad, how come they have to make so many stories up about him? Which is a great point. But also this. How do they only get things wrong in a negative way? Because some people will say, well, media is not perfect. If the media were just imperfect, every now and then there would be a story come out that's hugely favorable to Trump. Like, let's say he saved 8 puppies from an alligator at Mar-a-Lago.
He gave everybody else 2 scoops of ice cream, and he only took half a scoop.
There would be tons of stories that would come out as often as they are wrong in a negative way. Can you name me one story, Buck, that has ever occurred that has been positive for Trump that was later proven to be untrue?
I was very vocal about this going back to 2017, and Don Jr., for example, would say this a lot. I mean, there were a bunch of us, I'm sure you were saying it then, Clay, pointing out that just by the laws of the ratio here, by the laws of mathematics, eventually they would have to say something. It doesn't even have to be really positive for Trump, but just neutral. Oh, we got the facts a little wrong on this. Let's update it. The things that they get wrong are always Trump is worse than Hitler. Oh, it turns out he's actually not worse than Hitler.
Yeah.
But we still think he is. It doesn't matter that the story was wrong. But I would just I would point out again, they lie about him constantly also because what in the record, especially now that we're under a Democrat regime, Clay, what are they going to go after? In the actual record of policy, they'll say, oh, he's so racist. Really? Because he actually saw a surge in Hispanic and for the GOP, African-American voting. He's so racist? That's really the best they can do on the bad policy side? Give me a break.
I mean, the lies surrounding Charlottesville, the lies that constantly are trumpeted as if they are evidence of his awfulness. And what we're really seeing is Biden and the Democrats are everything they warned us about when it came to Trump. They're the ones who were trying to force you to go get the COVID shot. They're the ones who are trying to force your kids to wear masks. They're the ones who are overreaching in terms of federal authority. Biden has been a authoritarian as much as he could leader. The only thing that's pushed back against Biden's overwhelming attempts to grab power, ironically, have been Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, who have refused to accede. And hammer this home with everybody out there. Things are bad with Biden. They would have been far worse if Biden had truly gotten all of the things that he wanted to do put in place. He's been saved by Manchin, by Sinema, and by the Supreme Court.
If Biden was back in the basement, just letting the press releases out and not actually doing anything, the country would actually probably be better off when you look at this. His
country would be better if
better.
Biden had never passed any legislation, to your point. If he had come in and done nothing, inflation would be way lower, and the country would be in a far better place.